What's going on YouTube? OCD for EDC here. And what I got for your face balls tonight is a Microtech. So, this is a brand that I have never really been that excited about, and I have not carried one of their knives before. I have handled several different Microtech knives over the years, and certainly liked several of them, but just never really liked them enough to actually spend the money on one. And just I don't know. I was just kind of indifferent about Microtech all the way around. Certainly years ago I loved the OTFs, but back in those days wasn't willing to spend that kind of money on a knife. And yeah, just just for whatever reason, just never really felt like purchasing one. So this video here, this is a knife that was loaned to me by one of my viewers named David, and he was nice enough to loan me several knives. And so I got a chance to handle this one and take a look at it and actually, get to experience it for a couple of days. So we're going to talk about it here for a few minutes and check it out. So anyway, this is the packaging that it comes in. Simple Microtech box, pretty standard stuff here. And then you get the standard paperwork, and it's actually a pretty nice little card that it comes with here. So anyone that owns a Microtech is pretty familiar with that sort of deal. And this here is the knife in question. So what we're talking about here is the Microtech Socom Elite Auto. There it is. So this thing's an absolute beast of a knife, and I'm going to throw it down this way just so it sits flat, but it actually is blade heavy here since the handle's all aluminum. But we'll start out here with a few size comparisons. So here is the Spyderco Manix 2, and this here is the Benchmade Super Freak. And yeah, we'll throw out the Benchmade Bug Out. And here it is with the Spyderco Para 3 Lightweight. And then I'll throw out a couple of my token large knives here. Here it is against the Spyderco Native Chief. And here it is against the Cold Steel 8015. So as you can see, we're talking, for those that don't know, that have never handled one of these, we're talking about a pretty good sized knife. And so we'll get into the dimensions here. Alright, so what we're looking at here is an overall length of 9.168 inches. You got a handle length of 5.19 inches. And you have a blade length of 3.978 inches, so just barely under 4 inches. You have a surprising handle thickness of 520 thousandths. It is a little bit thicker up here in the pocket clip area and then the button, so I'm measuring it back here where there is no button. But overall, just a little over a half of an inch. Blade stock thickness on this guy is 190 thousandths, and then you've got a blade height in this area right here of just over, it's like 1.1 inch, so a little over an inch. And then up in this area, it does grow slightly, but because of the sharpening choil, and then you've got this jimped area here, it's kind of an offset, kind of a strange deal. But you've got a handle thickness through this area here is right out about an inch in height. And then at its absolute highest spot right here is 1.47. So it's just under an inch and a half. So if you compare that to like Spyderco, let me fold this up here. But say like the Spyderco Para 3 Lightweight, we'll actually do it this way because you can see that this guy fits inside of the Para 3 Lightweight. So, in the pocket, it actually carries surprisingly well. So the fact that this thing, has a tip down carry clip on it. It actually goes in the pocket quite nice. This portion right here is kind of strange if you're carrying it right-handed, but if you're carrying it left-handed, it actually carries quite well. You've got a pretty deep carry clip, so you got about this much of the knife hanging out of the pocket, but it lends itself well to grab, and it's a really functional clip. I actually like it quite a bit. So I did carry this guy just a little bit, just to get a feel for it and kind of see what this thing's all about. And so let's get a weight on this guy here. So it is aluminum construction on the handle. So for being a little over 9-inch knife, it's not quite as heavy as you might think. So yeah, 4.78 ounces. So under 5 ounces, and you're talking about a little over 9-inch knife. And of course, I don't need to tell anyone, the action on this guy is fantastic. That blade comes out of there with authority. And because it's 190 thousandths blade stock, it's got a pretty serious thwack. And it, it comes out hard. And you can certainly feel it. That blade got a lot of momentum and inertia out on the end of the blade there. And yeah, so it certainly opens with authority. This definitely is a knife that, some people would say is not suited for the lunchroom. But yeah. So anyway, this particular model here is in 204P steel. And of course has all the standard, if I can get them to show up there, all the standard Microtech billboarding on the blade. And, it's kind of funny to me. This kind of stuff doesn't really bother me too much. I hear a lot of people bitch about billboarding on the blades. Microtech is probably the worst offender of that kind of stuff, but for me, it doesn't really bother me. And, it's that's what their brand's all about. So be it. Not a big deal. You do have the Microtech logo on the pocket clip. So as you can see there, that will be showing on the pocket clip. But again, doesn't really bother me too much. No one's coming up and inspecting my pocket clips. So, and then on the handle, to me, the Socom has always been just kind of a strange looking knife. This was one that I hadn't really handled much before, so I was really, really happy to get a chance to handle this thing and spend a little time with it. But I don't know, the aesthetic on this thing just never really spoke to me. It just wasn't something that I was really into. So you do have a lanyard hole out here on the end, and then of course you got this glass breaker, and it does have a ball in the end of the glass breaker, so it's not sharp or pointy or anything, which is nice. And then you've got this texturing, on these inlays. I don't even know that you'd call them inlays. I'm not sure exactly what the material is. Kind of looks like some sort of ground rubber or something, but I'm not sure exactly what the material is. But construction is extremely solid, and you can see here on the blade stop pin, that's definitely a stop pin that means business. That thing is for real. I didn't take this knife apart, and I'm not going to disassemble it now. This is not my knife, so I'm not going to take it apart, but without a doubt, that's a robust stop pin. And so, the fact that you have, which I feel like the stop pin needs to be that tough just because of how much blade weight you have here. I mean, the handle on this guy is very, very light. So pretty much all of the weight is coming from the blade, and you got 190 thousandths thick blade stock. And so when that thing opens, it comes with a lot of authority. And if that blade stop was smaller, I'm sure that it would get loose over time, or maybe deform, or waller out the pockets in the aluminum or something. But it's substantial. It's got a lot of surface area there, and it just feels really well constructed. So blade centering is right on. You actually have the seam of the knife, so if it was off at all, you would be able to see it. I don't know if that's really going to show up on camera very well, but you have the two halves of the of the scale material coming together. So if it was off center, it would stick out like a sore thumb. And then you've got, kind of an interesting shaped button there for deployment. The button does sit proud of the scale just slightly, and it is textured, but it's pretty smooth texturing. It's not real crazy grippy or anything. It does deploy easily. It's not hard to deploy at all, but it does open with authority. There's no doubt about that. But for me, the thing that I enjoyed the most about this blade is the grind. So as you can see here, we've got a nice satin finish. You do have a swedge across the top here, and it runs, I don't know, 3/4 of the blade. And then you've got this flat here that's satin finish, and the grind lines run parallel with the blade edge. And then on the primary grind of the knife, you have a satin finish that runs perpendicular to the blade edge. And it's really well done. It looks nice. But I don't know how well you'll be able to see this on this camera, but you can see that the secondary bevel is extremely small. And it's a little bit larger out here on the Tonto portion of the blade. But behind the edge thickness on this guy, from back here at the sharpening choil to this point right here, is 10 thousandths behind the edge. And then out here on the Tonto, you got 16 thousandths behind the edge. So, certainly have a robust enough tip that you're not worried about breaking it. But in this portion of the blade right here, it is extremely thin behind the edge. So this thing, really is really fantastic in that way. I was pretty surprised at how thin behind the edge it was. I was not expecting it to be ground that well. I knew the blade stock was going to be pretty thick on this guy, and I was expecting it to be, 20, 25,000, something like that. So I was really happy to see that it was only 10 thousandths behind the edge. And of course, the action, it's Microtech action. It's just like a, side opening ProTech or, any good brand that makes a side opening auto. They all work about the exact same way. So this one's no different. It does a really great job. So ergonomics on this guy also impressed me quite a bit. So for me, personally, I don't really care for the look of this knife so much. However, in the hand, this grip is, although it is comfortable in my hand, I don't really feel like it's comfortable to use the knife in that way. I would rather choke up. And so the fact that you have this thumb ramp that is, negative angle, I don't know, they probably have a name for this. If they do, I don't know. But, most of the time when we're talking thumb ramps, we're talking about something like a Spyderco where you have an inclining, upward angle thumb ramp. However, on this guy, you have a negative angle thumb ramp, which after using this a couple of times, I really enjoy. So it makes for a really, really secure grip because I'm kind of pulling back with my thumb. And then you have this finger choil area right here. And man, you just have such a good positive grip on this thing. It's really impressive. The pocket clip just disappears in the hand. I really don't feel it at all. I mean, I can tell that it's, hitting me in this area, but it's not something that's super uncomfortable for me. But the thing really, it just works well in the hand. Now, in the left hand, it works just as well. However, my index finger, my middle finger here, lands right on the high spot of that pocket clip, which is slightly uncomfortable. However, it's not difficult for me to if I just naturally grab the knife, my finger lands right on that high spot or right where the clip is pointing up. But if I just adjust my grip very slightly, I can make my, middle finger land to where it sits right in the valley there, and then it's extremely comfortable in the left hand as well. And I feel like, if I were to carry this a little more, my hand would just naturally go to that position. But the thing is really really ergonomic. So, you know, this is a knife that I'm kind of torn about. It's a knife that personally I wasn't that excited about when I first saw it. Certainly, yes, it's a cool knife, but for me, it just wasn't something that I was willing to spend that kind of money on. I didn't like the aesthetic of it. I didn't think that it was for me. It wasn't that excited about it. Now that I've had this and had a chance to handle it and carry it for a little bit, the thing functionally is much, much better than I ever gave it credit for. Like I said, I have, it's not shocking to me that it's a quality made knife. I knew that it would be. That's not what's surprising to me. What's surprising to me is the fact that it's more ergonomic than I thought it would be. The grind is certainly better than I was expecting it to be. And yeah, so between those two things, I'm pleasantly surprised with the SOCOM Elite. It is, yeah, it's just a better knife than I was expecting it to be. So anyway, guys, that's about all I got for your face balls tonight. I definitely enjoyed carrying this guy and had a good time. So, David, I really appreciate it, and I will get your babies returned real soon. So, anyway, guys, hope you have a great night, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks.